Hey, what's up guys, Fizzy297 here, and today I'm here with something a little different from what I normally do. I'm here today making a Holy Paladin guide, which is a little different from what I normally do, because I usually do Let's Plays and whatever, and I haven't made a WoW video in a while, so I just felt like it was kind of time to make a WoW video. And I figured, why the hell not make a guide about healing for PvE on a Holy Paladin. Obviously the things we're going to go over are things like race, and why you should play this race over this race. We're going to talk about stats, glyphs, talents, all that good stuff. Anyways, before we get into it, look at this as more of a suggested playstyle rather than an actual sort of guide, because there's not one certain way to do things anymore. But anyways, let's just get right into it. Over to talents, there's obviously a lot of flexibility for talents when it comes to being a paladin. There are going to be talents that work better for some fights in Siege of Orgrimmar than some other talents do. But let's just start off, obviously, from the top. We have our movement speed talents. Um, Speed of Light, it's like a sprint, 45-second cooldown. We have Long Run of the Law, which is a judgment. When you use judgment, you get 45% movement speed increase for 3 seconds. And Pursuit of Justice, which is a passive movement speed thing. Personally, I like to use Speed of Light because it's good for example, on Malkarok, let's say you have a random pool somewhere that you have to go stand in that maybe someone's out of range of. It's great for, you know, kind of like those emergency situations. Long Arm of the Law is also probably very good if you make a macro for it. It would be something like a last target macro, so that way you could judge the boss and switch back to whoever you were healing. And then Pursuit of Justice is also extremely good. However, I don't find myself holding on to Holy Power for very long, so it may not be as strong as the other two. Level 30 talents, which are all crowd control talents. Fist of Justice is going to replace Hammer of Justice, which is our 1 minute cooldown stun, and it's just going to turn into a 30-second cooldown stun. I like using this because it's helpful for CC on fights like Galakras and those ad heavy fights, and also fights like Noroshen where you have a bunch of little ads and, you know, big ads and all that good stuff. Repentance, which is also good for, you know, mostly trash, honestly, but I feel like if you're in a 25, I do 10 mans, but I feel like if you're in a 25-man guild, or even at 10 man, you're probably rolling with enough CC anyways that this is kind of just unnecessary. And then Evil as a point of view, personally I think it's completely worthless in PvE. It's mostly a PvP arena type thing because you're not going to be CCing a whole lot of humanoids or beasts, or sorry, not CCing, fearing rather, a whole lot of humanoids or beasts. And on to level 45 talents, we have Selfless Healer. Selfless Healer gives you a charge of Holy Power every time you use Judgments, and it also reduces the cast time on Divine Light, Flash of Light, Holy Radiance, and that stacks up to 3 times, increasing their effectiveness by 20% for each stack. I feel like this is really good for more advanced Holy Paladin play. Obviously, you're going to have to be constantly judging every time it's off cooldown and switching to healing. It's almost like a Disc Priest type thing for Paladins, except not anything like Disc Priest, because you're not actually healing people when you do damage. It's just making your heals better when you do damage and giving you holy power charges. So I guess it can be comparable to a Disc Priest in a way, but not so much, like I originally thought when I started this sentence. Selfless Healer, definitely for advanced Holy Paladin players. Probably could be a very rewarding playstyle if you got really good with it. The next one's Eternal Flame. This one is personally my favorite because I feel like it's just all around a great talent. What Eternal Flame is it turns Word of Glory into a heal over time ability, which we have none of, and that's why I like it so much, because it's a 30-second hot, it's a really long time, and it's constantly ticking, and hots are also affected by haste, but we'll get into that in the stats section of this guide. Sacred Shield is sort of a bubble ability in addition to our Mastery. When you go Holy, it has no target limit, but a mana cost, and it stacks at 3 charges with a 10-second recharge time. Personally, I have not used this ability as Holy because I feel like Eternal Flame is just the strongest talent on this tier of talents. but Sacred Shield could probably be pretty effective if you needed to sort of maybe use it on a squishier tank. Like, let's say you're bringing in a new person into your raid group and trying to get them gear. Might be a better choice, but personally, I feel like Eternal Flame is the strongest here on this talent tier. And level 60 talents, they're all pretty good. But personally, I think Unbreakable Spirit's going to be the best choice here due to Cliff of Divinity, which we'll get into in a second. It's also good because it reduces the cooldown on Divine Shield, Divine Protection as well. And we all know Paladins like to get themselves into really bad situations where they might need to bubble because, you know, mechanics are hard to follow sometimes. The Clemency, however, Heroic Protectors is a great example for when this talent's going to be better than Unbreakable Spirit because people are going to get Garrote, which is a bleed that doesn't go away until he soft goes into his Desperate Measures phase. That being said, you're going to want to bubble, particularly healers in range DPS, that way, because I know not all melee have a cancel aura macro readily available. However, it's very useful to have one, but just to save them, you know, a DPS loss and save your rated DPS loss, I like to use it on like spellcasters and healers just for the fact that they don't have to really worry about not being able to DPS. And getting Garrote off on that fight definitely helps out your healers and helps you out as a healer because there's a lot less damage to have to constantly heal. However, putting a 3-stack Eternal Flame on targets with Garrote during that fight is very, very helpful because it just really almost out-heals, depending on your gear, out-heals the damage output coming from Garrote. Hand of Purity seems more like a PvP talent just due to the fact that in parentheses, you can see there it says less for some creature attacks. That being said, it may not work on certain boss mechanics, like for example, he softfoots poison, or even Garrote that we just talked about. I haven't tried it. It probably doesn't get affected by it, which is why I feel like most people in the top rating guilds go with Clemency or Unbreakable Spirit. But however, that would be a very good ability to use in PvP. But this is a PvP or PvE guide rather, so we'll stick to that. The next talents that we're going to talk about are the level 75 talents. We have Holy Avenger, Sanctified Wrath, and Divine Purpose. Holy Avenger. Its abilities that generate Holy Power will deal 30% additional damage and healing, and generate 3 charges of Holy Power for the next 18 seconds. Sanctified Wrath. For Holy, it reduces the cooldown on Holy Shock, increases the critical strike chance by 20%. That being said, I feel like both of these are very good for burst healing. So for those high damage phases, when you really need to output the heals, there's obviously certain fights where these are going to work way, way, way better than Divine Purpose. For example, like the, not Spirit World, but the transitional phases on Garrosh, when you have to go in and, you know, kill all the Shah and then get the whatevers and survive the slams that he does, which absolutely wreck raids. That would be a good time to use one of those cooldowns in that phase. However, you shouldn't really need to. Just due to the fact that the damage isn't that substantial, but if you feel like your healers are really slacking and you need to sort of pick up the pace a little bit, you need to use one of those cooldowns, that's a really good time to use one of these. Like I said, this is just a guide and sort of a suggested playstyle type thing, and not so much like as to this is completely right. Because obviously, depending on your raid, depending on your comp, I mean, there's a bunch of different things that affect it. You're going to want to use different talents to make things easier for you and hopefully get that boss kill down. But personally, I like Divine Purpose because I'm constantly using Holy Power, and every time you use Holy Power, you have a chance to proc this. And for the next build that would cost Holy Power, it actually consumes 3. So let's say you just use a single charge of Holy Power for an Eternal Flame on your off tank, and then boom, Divine Purpose proc. You can just throw up a 3-charge Holy Shock, or a 3-charge Eternal Flame on your main tank, and sometimes this procs like 15 times in a row, and then there's other boss fights where it just never procs. I mean, it's kind of hit or miss, and it's a bit of a risk, but personally, I like playing with it. It makes things a little more interesting. And last but not least, we have the level 90 talents. We have Holy Prism, Light's Hammer, and Execution Sentence. Holy Prism is great. There's certain boss fights in Siege of Orgrimmar where this works fantastically well, especially in 10-man. I mean, I feel like it'd be a little less effective in 25 mans, but in 10 mans, this ability is great. You to target an enemy with it, so having a macro for it as well would be very, 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 very suggested. Just due to the fact that you wouldn't have to just manually click on the target you were healing, or vice versa. That being said, it's great because you target an enemy with it, and then you use it on that enemy, and then it heals everybody around that enemy, which is super great. Um, and it's only 5 allies within 15 yards. So that being said, that's like half your raid in 10 man, which is why I feel like this would be a lot stronger in 10 man than 25 man, because obviously you have way more people to heal in a 25 man than you do in a 10 man. The next one, and my personal favorite, is Light's Hammer. You throw a cool ass hammer on the ground, you kind of feel like Thor for a little bit. And it's basically almost like a Paladin Tranquility, but to a much lesser extent. I just like to compare it to that because it's a big AOE heal, and besides Holy Radiance, we don't have an AOE heal that does significant healing output in a certain area. I like to use it mostly on fights where I know there's gonna be a lot of raid-wide damage. And fights where I know we're going to be stacked constantly, like Garrosh, for example, because for Garrosh, depending on how you do the fight, there's usually certain stack points, and so it's really good because you can effectively place it where you know most of your raid is going to be standing in it, and you can get the highest healing output from it. And then there's Execution Sentence, which, as Holy, is called Stay of Execution. Basically, what it is, it's another sort of hot, and it's a 1-minute cooldown, and it's only a single target hot, however, so it's probably very good for fights where you have heavy tank damage, where you need to switch tanks often, probably. And let's say you have a squishier tank, like for example, maybe a monk tank who's not clearing off his stagger. You might want to use it on him. I mean, but they should be clearing their stagger in the first place. But like I said, totally depends. Personally, I don't really like to use it just because it's a single target heal, and the heals start out slow at first and then slowly increase over time. Uh, I feel like Holy Prism and Light's Hammer are way, way, way better choices because you're not just going to be healing one target at any given time. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for the talent section of this healing guide. Hey guys, Fizzy297 here. That's actually going to wrap it up for part 1. This video ended up being way longer than I thought it was going to be, so I'm going to break it up into like probably 3 or 4 parts. Remember to like, share, and favorite, and subscribe if you liked the video, and hopefully you got some help from this video, because that's the whole reason I'm making this like little guide series, is because I want to help people like better understand their Holy Paladin and just learn to play it better. I mean, that's what it's all about. Anyways, I'm Fizzy297, and I will see you guys in the next one.